So what do you think about the COP21 so far, and what kind of impact do you think the film might have on it?
Well, we've already had a huge impact here. We've already been declared one of the 7 climate criminals here in Paris. And actually that's gone viral now, with even the New York Times covering it and covering our movie premiere. So this is, and it's in a, we planned this during this week because the whole world will be watching the UN and the climate. So we wanted to be essentially the, well, for lack of a better word, the turd in the punch bowl, and that's what we are here. We are in this whole UN conference. So I think what this is going to do is the emperor has no clothes, and the UN is going to be stripped when we get this movie out there to the public. You know, there's been studies that show anytime the public is shown any bit of skepticism, it is deadly effective because they know intuitively that no debate is ever over and that there's no such thing as this all scientists agree. And I think this film, because of the political implication of profiling politically left scientists who voted for Al Gore, who endorsed President Obama, but are major global warming skeptics, is going to have a huge impact.
And so what happens next for climate skeptics and the movement to expose this whole charade?
Well, actually, tomorrow in Washington, December 8th in Washington, D.C., we have Dr. Will Happer of Princeton, Dr. Judith Curry, Dr. John Christie, I believe, all testifying in front of Ted Cruz's hearing in the Senate. So the message is getting out there, and the Republican Party is getting the message out there. Because if the next election goes to a president who commits to Obama's global warming agenda, we're looking much like Obamacare. Another 4 or 8 years with EPA regulations being implemented, with UN treaty provisions being implemented in the United States. And after 8 years, suddenly we're going to be talking about, Republicans can't even get rid of the Department of Energy, let alone talking about rolling back global warming regulations 8 years from now. The next election is critical. The next president is critical. If it is a global warming president, much like Obama, then this stuff becomes institutionalized and permanent in our culture. And that has to be fought. That's why the next election, 2016, has to have this as a major issue. And right now, the Republican Party is just terrible. Even people like Donald Trump, who has said many great things and is very courageous on this, he's asked about global warming, he'll say things like, oh, no one cares about that, move on. Well, it doesn't matter whether anyone cares, it doesn't matter if you believe or not. Obama's implemented the agenda. It's happening whether you know it or not. You've got to be, they need to be saying, we're going to roll back EPA regulations, we're going to defund the EPA, we're going to withdraw from the UN IPCC, we're going to withdraw from all the funding, we're not going to go to these UN conferences. Republicans aren't really saying that. They're just saying, oh, I don't really believe, I'm a skeptic, and or I oppose what Obama's doing. They need to start talking about how to reverse it, and some of them are, but I'm saying the general thrust of it is they still think it's a debate about whether they believe or not. No. Regardless, we're faced with a serious policy implications right now.
Okay, excellent. One more question. What's with the costume?
Okay, the costume is, we are here at the UN conference in Paris to show that we are establishing a new climate monarchy. The United Nations is essentially taking away free choices of sovereign states throughout Africa, South America, Asia. 1.2 billion people don't have running water and electricity. Their leaders are going to be willing to sell them out for climate fund. And what's the climate fund? The UN has said it. It's wealth. We will redistribute wealth by climate policy. So this is a way to say that the masses of people out there, the UN considers the public the masses, you're going to be controlled now by a small governing elite, they call global governance, telling them how to live their lives, their economics, their energy policy, whether they're a choice between a solar panel on a hut made of dung, or whether they're going to have coal and oil and natural gas like the wealthy Western world has done. That's what we're facing. This is the ghost of climate policy future, and this has to be opposed. This will be a monarchy. Democracy will go away as we go to more centralized planning. And less choices, politicians deciding who our energy choices and our economy and centrally planning our lives and our development.